ADHD as a creative can be incredibly difficult to deal with. I know this from personal experience. I've been dealing with it since I was a kid. And I want to read a couple symptoms really quick just to see if you can relate, to see if this is something that you experience yourself. This is actually a list for teens and kids, but I still struggle with this stuff as a 34-year-old adult. Having a short attention span or being easily distracted, making careless mistakes, appearing forgetful or losing things, being unable to stick to a task that is tedious or time-consuming, constantly changing activities or tasks, having difficulty organizing things, being unable to sit still, especially in calm or quiet surroundings, constantly fidgeting, being unable to concentrate on tasks, excessive physical movement, excessive talking, and the list goes on and on. So as a kid, this stuff was ruining my childhood experience in school. First grade was my first bout of in-school detention. Also my first paddling. I think I got multiple paddlings back when schools were still allowed to paddle a child on the ass. By third grade, my teachers were trying to put me on Ritalin. This is the response that most schools have for kids that are hyperactive. They say, here, take this pill, please. And so they hand you a pill and they tell you to take that and that'll settle you down. And then now I can tell you what to do and I can tell you all these things and you'll sit and listen and be a good kid. My mom said, no, this is not for my kid. I don't want to put my kid on a pill to make him settle down, to take out his rambunctiousness and make him sit still and maybe be able to listen a bit better. Instead, she pulled me out of school, God bless her soul, and she homeschooled me for a few years. Now, this didn't solve my ADHD. All this did was took me away from the people that hated my ADHD and let my mom instead homeschool me. And then she had to deal with the ADHD. Now, the ADHD didn't go anywhere magically when my mom took me out of school to homeschool me. It just meant that I was away from the teachers that were trying to shove pills down my throat as a kid. By fifth grade, I was put back into public school. And then by sixth grade, I had detention 56 times, or I think it was actually over 60 times in sixth grade that I had detention. By eighth grade, I was suspended from school and then eventually put in alternative school for the last semester of eighth grade, and then so on and so forth. I'm sure you can probably relate to this. If you have ADHD, you probably dealt with similar things in school growing up that I dealt with. Now, this isn't like an anti-Ritalin or an anti-Adderall kind of video. This is not my agenda here. Like if you take that, go for it. But I do want to talk about the 4 things that have helped me deal with ADHD as a successful creative, someone who's built multiple 6-figure income streams, several of which in the last 5 to 10 years have gone over 7 figures, and just hopefully share something that helps you as an ADHD creative. This is not something magically that's going to get you off medication if you take it. This is not some scientifically backed study. This is just my experience and the things that I have learned helps me deal with those things that I read off that list at the beginning of this video. All of those things where I can't concentrate, the things where I can't sit in a quiet room, the things where I fidget or move from task to task. All these things in this video is what helped me deal with those symptoms. And I'm going to call these 4 things my magic pills. And by the way, this is a melatonin, not a Ritalin. I don't actually have Ritalin in this house. So magic pill number 1 is to pursue something that I actually gave a shit about. It wasn't until high school where I actually found something that I personally care about that I was willing to pursue fully. In school, I didn't care about history, geography, English. I didn't care about math, algebra. I didn't care about any of that stuff. It was not useful to me. It was not interesting to me. It was no wonder that I couldn't focus on those things. It was no wonder that the teachers were wondering why I was looking around or talking too much or fidgeting. It was because those things were interesting to me. I didn't care about those things. Once I found something that I was actually passionate about, which was music in this case, I went all in. I didn't have problems focusing on things. I didn't have problems diving into the details of things. I didn't have problems sitting still when I was pursuing music in high school. I was passionate about it. And I actually cared about it, so I pursued it fully. So that's the first thing. And this is where so many creatives are. They're stuck in this dual life. On one hand, they have something that they're passionate about, something that fuels their creativity, and that the things that actually don't pull out their ADHD, things that they can focus on, things that they do love to do. And then they have this other life, this life of a soul-sucking day job, this life of a slog day to day where they have to do these things. And those things are not interesting to them. They're not interested in it. And therefore, they struggle to do it. That's the life that so many people are in. And the reason they can't break away from that and into the passion-filled thing is because they're not actually understanding that it takes more than just passion. Taking something in the creative world and turning it into a side hustle or a full-time income takes more than just passion. And this is just a side note, but if you are the type of person who is trying to actively pursue your creative pursuits, this is where our podcast comes in, the 6-Figure Creative, where we talk about that intersection between creativity and making money. That's all I'm going to say about that. So back to our magic pill. This is something that every single day I have to practice with. I have set up my life, I've set up my businesses so that I am doing the things that I am passionate about. And if I don't love it, if I'm not into it, then I have two things that I do. One is, actually, there's a few things that I do. One is I delegate it to someone else. So I have an assistant that I'll pass tasks to that I'm not necessarily interested in doing. Number two is I automate it, which means I put software or processes into place that does it automatically for me. Or three, I just eliminate it. Not everything has to be done all the time. Sometimes you can get away with not doing things. This is why for the vast majority of my life, I've ignored social media as a platform for building my businesses on, because I just didn't personally think I needed it. I did other things to build my business. That may change in the future, but that's just where I am right now. And you can do the same. If you have a business of some sort and there's something in it that you hate to do, you can eliminate or delegate or automate those things so that they're off your plate. Really, to sum this point up, yes, it takes more than passion, but that doesn't mean you're stuck doing all those things that you're not passionate about. So that's magic pill number one, is actually pursuing something that you're passionate about. Magic pill number two is routine, habit and routine, really. So this is a big one in my life. Every single morning, I have the same exact routine. Every afternoon, I have the same exact routine. From day to day, I've kind of created routine and habit throughout my week so that I kind of have a structure for the way I do things. And this is big for any of you who struggle to get things done in your life. And ADHD is a big part of this. If you actually look back at those symptoms I talked about, constantly changing activity or task, having difficulty organizing tasks. This is a telltale trait of ADHD, and habit and routine help with these things. And that's because you don't rely on motivation to get things done. You rely on habit and routine. And the reason this matters so much is because motivation or resolve is temporary. It's something that comes and goes, it ebbs and flows, but routine is something that is just there day after day, week after week, month after month. I've eaten the same breakfast for 7 years. Every single morning, the exact same breakfast, because it's part of my routine. And I am brutally meticulous about maintaining that routine every day. Ask my wife. If she messes with my routine any way, shape, or form, it kind of puts my morning off. And it's just one of those things she knows really not to mess with my morning routine, because that is what sets me up for the day. And I cannot get out of that routine, because as someone with ADHD, it throws off everything. And I feel like I'm almost lost at that point. So for you, if you can put habits and routines into place to do those things in your creative business that you know you need to do, that you struggle to get done, this is a great place to put habit into place, because it relies less on motivation and more on routine. And when you put routine into place and habit into place, that's when things get done, not relying on your feelings to get things done. Magic pill number three is that I live my life out of my calendar. My motto is, if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done. Another way of saying that is, what gets scheduled gets done. Creatives, we kind of really just have a terrible reputation for doing the things we say we're going to do. We're flaky, we're sketchy. And for a lot of us, it's because we're dealing with ADHD. It's really no fault of our own. And we may not even know we have ADHD, but we just struggle to get things done. If you go back to those symptoms for ADHD, appearing forgetful or losing things, making careless mistakes, constantly changing activities or tasks, having difficulty organizing tasks. These are all things that can cause things to slip through the cracks on the projects we're working on. And so by putting things on our calendar, scheduling time in advance to get those things done, this is great for our brains and for our workflows. So this goes hand in hand with routines. Routines are great for those things you do every single day without fail. Another great thing for the calendar is actually scheduling time to do the routines that you are trying to build out. So when you're first trying to get started by doing routines or building routines for yourself or habit for yourself, actually scheduling those in your calendar until they become automatic. And so finally, we have my fourth magic pill, and that is instrumental music. This one sounds stupid, but honest to God, I cannot sit in a quiet room without losing focus on something. I cannot listen to music with vocals on it as I'm working, because that distracts me. I listen to the vocals. So instrumental music has been instrumental, forgive the pun. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. It is instrumental to the success of what I do day to day. So it doesn't really matter the genre. It can be jazz. It can be metal. For me, I listen to a lot of metal because I'm weird. It can be EDM or dance or trance. It doesn't really matter. Just something with no vocals in it that preferably has a pretty steady beat to it. And this allows me to get outside of my brain, to get in almost to a trance as I'm listening to music and focus on what I'm doing. And this has been, I call it my electric Adderall. I actually have a playlist on Spotify I call Electric Adderall, where I put all the songs that I love to listen to that help me put in this like trance-like state for work. And it feels like what I imagine Adderall or Ritalin does to the brain, as far as chilling you out, slowing down your brain so you can focus on what you need to do. The difference is there are no side effects to this. So just to sum all four of these up, number one, again, is to pursue something that you actually give a shit about. Number two is build habit and routine instead of relying on motivation in to get things done. Number 3 is to live life out of your calendar, because what gets scheduled gets done. And number 4 is to listen to instrumental music, or preferably build out your own playlists, or listen to something like Chill Hop that helps you just zero in on the work that you're doing instead of letting your brain float away into these other areas. ADHD does not have to be a dirty word. It does not have to be a thing that detracts from your business. You can turn this into a superpower if you work at it. I know many, many creatives and entrepreneurs that are successful at what they do despite having ADHD. So if this is something that's interesting to you, you're trying to build a business that you're passionate about in an area that you love, you're trying to build this thing of creativity and money together, then I encourage you to listen to our podcast, Six Figure Creative. The name and the art is on the screen right now, and it's on pretty much every podcast app. And we have over 150 episodes where we talk about this intersection of creativity and money. We interview a lot of awesome people. We have topics like this on the podcast, and our goal is to help people work through their problems so they can make a living doing something that they actually love.